Welcome to Between the Lines, a podcast on Jane Eyre,
where we dive deeper into the novel of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I'm Giada.
I'm Gemma.
I'm Autumn.
I'm Alyssa.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Abby.
Hello, I'm Giada, and in this podcast we're going to be talking about author, narrator, and genre in Jane Eyre.
We're first going to be talking about the author along with some fun facts after this. And the author is Charlotte Bronte, and she's a woman who grew up in the early 1800s and was driven to write this book because of her past experiences. And it's explained in the About the Author section of Jane Eyre, and it describes how the book was partly based on her unhappy experiences as a student and teacher.
Charlotte's experiences through her life heavily influenced the way she wrote Jane Eyre. She experienced harsh schooling and loneliness, and she wrote during a time where women had very limited independence, and her beliefs were reflected through Jane and her passion for women's independence and how we deserve respect. This belief challenged traditional roles at this time.
On the topic of Charlotte Bronte, I've done some research for fun facts, so I'm going to share a couple of them. So, one is her height. She was 4.5 feet tall. Similar to kind of Jane, she fell in love with her married teacher and wrote him letters.
That's wild.
When she was studying in Belgium. Literally Jane Eyre. Okay. And throughout her lifetime, she rejected at least 6 marriage proposals.
That's wild.
like okay, she got huzz. And she died at 38, and it says likely from tuberculosis. Just 9 months after marrying, I think, her married teacher.
What's tuberculosis?
It's like a disease that...
Isn't it your lungs?
Yeah, we just talked about this.
We did.
Like me and you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't her other sister die that exact same thing too?
Probably.
Must run the same.
I think tuberculosis.
Yeah, it must be
Except, no, on that topic, her father, Patrick, outlived his wife and all 6 of their children. So I don't think it was genes. I think it was the mom genes, because I don't think it was him.
Yeah.
So...
Sad. Yeah, so we can tell that Jane Eyre was heavily influenced by
Charlotte's life.
Yeah.
By who she was.
Mm-hmm.
I also did some research and found out that Charlotte experienced poverty, discipline, and even the death of her sisters at a boarding school. And I think that these strongly tie to the Jane Eyre story, because Jane also experiences discipline at Lowood and the death of her friend, Helen Burns.
Another thing that inspired her is when she was working as a governess, she visited North Leas Hall, which is believed to be the inspiration for Thornfield Hall. And tying into what Autumn said earlier about women having very little independence in this time, a common known fact about Charlotte Bronte is that she used a pen name, Curabelle, to avoid gender bias, since female authors were not taken seriously, and her identity was revealed after the success of Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Maddie, and I have some more information on that. So she had 2 other sisters who also wrote famous novels, or at least one of them wrote a pretty famous novel. Emily wrote Wuthering Heights, and Anne wrote Tenant of Wildfell Hall and Angus Grey. They actually kept their pseudonym names to have the exact same as their real names. So their abbreviation of their 3 names are CEA, and their pseudonym names also are CEA. They use these names to avoid social backlash and to have their work actually be accepted, because female novelists were easily dismissed back then. So in case there's any confusion on the CEA, what I meant by that is their fake names were Currer, Ellis, and Acton, and if you take the first letter of those 3, it's CEA. And the sisters' first names were Charlotte, Emily, and Anne, which were also CEA.
Okay.
Finishing the discussion on Charlotte Bronte, we also discovered that she was an artist in painting and writing books. Queen Victoria was also considered an extreme admirer of her art, supporting the Jane Eyre book and even the publicity of it.
Next, I want to discuss genre. I really like how Jane Eyre mixes multiple genres. We have the Gothic elements from the eeriness of Thornfield and how there was a hidden wife that created suspense when Jane heard strange laughter at Thornfield. On the other hand, the author mixes in romance and has a coming-of-age feeling to the story, and I think the author does this to keep the story interesting and to keep readers invested in Jane. I also want to talk about why the author shows Jane growing up, and I think this is not only to show the harsh truths of being a woman back then, but to also get readers to feel connected to Jane through her trauma in her childhood.
And going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think the genre is really influenced by Charlotte Bronte's actual life.
Yeah, especially with
Yeah.
like the coming of age aspect of it.
And she did die so young, so it really is from her childhood to
Yeah,
They both kind of like
just middle-aged
yeah.
experience.
So it makes sense why she ends at like Reader, I Married Him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both kind of experience like the same things in life.
Mm-hmm.
When Autumn was discussing earlier how this story ties to Gothic literature, I feel that the Gothic aspect was also influenced by Charlotte. And with Gothic literature expressing horror and death, Charlotte also dealt through many deaths throughout her life with her sisters and relatives from such a young age.
To add on to the romance aspect of Jane Eyre, the book mostly focuses on the relationship between Jane Eyre and Mr. Rochester, even though she's so much younger and he's so much older. And it represents the notion of lovers destined for each other, even though they both like have completely different lives and are in a different chapter in their lives. And another thing is that not only like a connection between Jane Eyre and the author is not only does Jane Eyre try and go for another older man, but so does the author as she even tries to get with her married teacher and falls in love with him.
And both of them are married.
Yeah.
To add on to what Gemma was talking about with romance, a lot of her ideas of romance in this book were quite shocking for society, as she expresses a lot of opinion and passion, and she doesn't fit the model woman, which was quiet, modest, and obedient. Like when she refuses to become his mistress, and I mean, mistresses weren't that common, but they weren't unheard of. And she refused to accept it. She also seeks equality with her employer, which, I mean, we didn't exactly have great working conditions until, like, very recently. So this was unheard of even for male employers and male employees. It's made more by the fact that she's female.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure. So for today's brain break, we're going to be doing a trivia. So, a trivia.
Come on, you pause
So-
this crazy. I thought you were really good.
So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to be the host asking the questions. Okay, so first who's going up against each other is Gianna and Abby. So your first question is, what year was Jane Eyre published?
1864.
1874.
Who's closer?
Gianna's closer.
Okay.
The answer was 1847.
Oh, jeez. So,
Okay,
Why is
yay!
it-
A point for you.
yeah.
Okay, now it's going to be Gianna against Autumn. So here's your guys' question. What year was the author born?
1806.
1813.
Autumn is closer. The answer was 1816. But
Oh my
here's a
gosh.
bonus. Can you guys tell me what month and day it was in?
Month and day.
October 3rd.
June 15th.
Autumn was closer.
Okay, Autumn, just.
Now it's going to be Autumn and Alyssa against each other. You guys' first question is, how many proposals did the author reject in her life?
3. Or 4. 4. I think it's
I was
4.
gonna say 4, but I can do like 5, I don't know.
Alyssa's closer.
Six.
The answer is 7.
Oh, 7?
Okay. So now it's going to be Alyssa versus Maddie. Here's your guys' question. Did the author get married?
Yes. She got married
Okay.
even though she loves
Well, you
someone else.
can't look at the
okay,
book, bro.
here's the bonus question. Who was the guy? What was his name?
Edward. I'll say John.
His name was Arthur Bell Nicholas.
Arthur?
Arthur. Thanks, Abby.
I was like, author?
Okay, thank you for listening to our brain break. Okay, so I want to move on to narration. So as we know, Jane Jane Eyre is the first-person narration, and this lets us see more of Jane's thoughts and feelings than we would if it was a third-person or a second-person story. But this also leads us to question whether Jane is a reliable narrator or not, and if the events actually happened as she says they did.
And I think we're all going to go around and say whether we think it's unreliable, reliable, and why. I think it's unreliable because there's different types of unreliable narrators. And the one I think that suits with Jane is the Naif. And the Naif is unreliable because they are inexperienced and they're naive. And since they're so young, or since the story is coming of age, she's learning. So she's trying to report accurately, but she could be misunderstanding what is happening. Yeah. And that's why I think she is unreliable, because she doesn't fully understand what's happening yet, and she's learning as we go. So we're just seeing her side, but we don't know if that's true.
So I agree with you for part of it, but I also disagree with you for another part of it. Like, in the beginning, when she's super young, yeah, I can totally see that, because all little kids have a warped perspective and their own views on the world. But I feel like as she gets older, she really does progress as a person and really learns to judge others correctly.
I disagree.
Yeah, I also really
disagree.
Okay, why do you guys disagree? Come on.
Wait, hold on. I have a rebuttal.
Give me your rebuttal.
I'm gonna say, okay, wait, hold on.
No, just go.
Yeah, like.
Wait, I'm not ready.
Okay, I'll go. Okay, so I see what you're saying, Maddie, but also those events that happened when she was a kid also influence how she thinks about things and how she sees the world. So
Her avoidant attachment.
yeah, her avoidant attachment was one thing we talked about that was influenced by her childhood, and that led her to become connected to like an older man such as Rochester. And Jane's childhood made her see the world differently than someone who grew up in a kind, loving home would. And that's why I think that she's the what was it? The Naif. Because she's just naive to what's going on. Okay, she's not naive to what's going on around her, but she has that sense of like a different mindset than a lot of others.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
And I feel like since it is coming of age, she's still learning as she goes. And even like when she falls in love with Mr. Rochester, she's trying to figure out how to love someone and like also not give up. Like
Give up her own independence.
Yeah, her
as a
own
woman.
independence. So I think that almost is kind of shows that she's unreliable because she doesn't know and she's still learning and trying to learn.
And she's conflicted as a person.
Mm-hmm. And like we talked about earlier, how it relates with Charlotte Bronte, about how since Charlotte Bronte died at 38, that both of the stories kind of end once they're middle age. So we only really see from when they are inexperienced and not wise enough yet.
And also, didn't Charlotte die like right after she got married to that teacher?
Yeah, because she died either from tuberculosis or like a pregnancy-related disease or whatever.
So that kind of connects to how like the story just ended with Reader, I Married Him. I know I mentioned that before, but that's just where she ended. She didn't have any other information or like any other experiences to add on to the story.
No, like I thought that was like a sequel or something.
There may be.
Tying back to what Autumn said about her childhood and how it really affects her thoughts on why she's unreliable, I also think she's unreliable because we cannot fully understand what really happens in all of these circumstances, because I know we talk about trauma a lot, but her emotions from trauma, I feel like her perspective becomes warped on what somebody who did not experience a hard childhood would actually think of the experience.
And I get what you're saying, Maddie, but I just feel like her experiences make it so she's unreliable.
Yeah, but I get what you mean, because like as a child you're obviously like more inexperienced, so it's like I do get what you're saying, but I agree with unreliable more.
Yeah, I agree with unreliable for
picture because, I mean, people, because she's telling her own story. It's not like, you don't see other people's perspectives in the book, so she could be exaggerating or, like, even making up stuff because some people go through, like, trauma, like, they rethink what happened differently.
Yeah.
So it really could have been something completely different.
And sorry. And also, I know a lot of people cope with trauma from just their brain erasing it from memory. So she might have some details of like recollection from her childhood that she just had to make up the rest because she didn't actually fully remember it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you all. So, all the things you're saying, I feel like fit into different categories of like unreliable narrator. Because like the one I was really talking about is she lacked perspective to be able to see and understand what she's seeing. Like, do you guys agree with that? Because it sounds like you guys are saying like she's like mentally unstable or like the lie. Like those are different types. So that's what I was wondering if that's like what you. Like, do you guys agree with mine, or are you guys saying you think something else? I think it's a little bit of almost a few of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think. Sorry.
I agree with your
The name.
claim that she is unreliable because she's the knave, because I feel that her being the knave is caused by that childhood trauma.
Yeah.
So I see that, like, her trauma leads to that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it could be a little bit of both, but I think it's mostly the knave because of what you said, Abby, and how her childhood made it so she had a lack of perspective.
And
I'm sorry.
No.
Are you saying, like, so you feel like she's the knave because she's just, like, not mature enough to understand throughout the book, like, the events that are
No,
happening?
like,
Or,
I just think she's still learning. So, like, she's naive and, like, because she has a lack of experience and everything because of her trauma. And that kind of changes how she thinks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because of, like you said, it's a coming-of-age story, she's still conflicted on things.
And I wonder if, like, that also shows the liar a little bit. Like, what if she's making her situation seem better than it is? Like,
Honestly,
she's not a home wrecker, she's just someone that fell in love.
Yeah.
Like, if we saw it from, like, someone else's point of view, like
like Bertha.
Yeah, like, if we saw from Bertha's point of view, she probably would have been seen like, as a home wrecker or someone that, like, stole her husband. And it really depends. Like, we don't know exactly.
I think we've talked about this before, but I think it would be really cool to see other perspectives, like one from Rochester, one from Bertha.
I agree, because I feel like Mr. Rochester is just, like, he's just there. Like, he is, like, he could be in depth, but, like, we don't really know. Like, he's just, like, the love interest. Like, I feel like to see his perspective on everything, like, does he like getting, like, really... Does he like his living status?
We would also be able to more deeply understand who Jane is, because she could consider herself just this innocent person who's trying to find love, but Mr. Rochester, we may not know if he really feels the same way and if he thinks it's a negative relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to say, is she really a homewrecker in other people's eyes, except for that one maid? And because no one knows about the wife. Like,
Well,
yeah.
Well, from the wife's perspective, she would be a homewrecker.
Yes.
Because she's married to her husband and another girl is swooping in and marrying him.
Yeah, like, being a homewrecker doesn't mean you wreck multiple relationships. You're considered a homewrecker if you wreck one.
yeah, I'm just curious because of the fact that only one person knew of this, and he did lock her up. So
I think didn't people know about his wife though, and then he's seen
he
with
tried
someone
to
else.
bury that, and he tried to marry. He hosted marriage parties. That's the only thing.
So I think they're both at fault, honestly.
They are.
I know, but I'm saying, but what she's saying is that other people wouldn't know, but people would know because he had a wife. Like, he had a wife, and then he gets with someone else.
Yeah, that's why I want. Sorry.
That's why I want other perspectives
Yeah.
to really see what's happening behind all this. What people know that he has a wife.
What they don't know.
I want to see more of Rochester's past and how this all happened with Bertha and like more of his, like, not childhood but almost teenage years or like later in life when he met Bertha before Jane.
Yeah, when we were talking about how people may not view her as a homewrecker. I feel like the people at those parties that Mr. Rochester was hosting could possibly see her as that if they saw how, oh, I'm talking to Mr. Rochester, then this maid comes up and etc.
Yeah, and also, like, even Miss Ingram, like, he hosted those parties. He was close to marrying Miss Ingram, right? So, just having a girl swoop in and, like...
That's someone that doesn't have a high social status
Yeah.
as well.
Also, if we were to see other perspectives, we could also get, like, more motives. Like, why did Mr. Rochester want to host these parties? Why did people do what they did?
What was the point?
So that appears to be the problem with first-person narration. You don't get to see everything. But, I mean, it's not a bad book. You do get a lot of information, but it would be very helpful if they had other viewpoints.
I think it also is important, though, that we only see Jane's perspective in this story.
I do.
Because the book is Jane Eyre. So, like, if we saw other people's perspective, I think she wouldn't be considered just the main character. Like, I think she is really just the main character. Like, Mr. Rochester would be too, but I think that would really change what the whole book would be about and her trying to find independence in a time where there's not independence for women.
Yeah, it would be less about women's empowerment, I feel.
Yeah. And it'd be more about a love story. And I think it's both.
Yeah. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
I feel like part of, like, the main part of the book was to showcase, like, how women were treated back then and, like, mostly show women empowerment.
Mm-hmm. And, like, since we only see her perspective, it shows what she thinks about everything rather than, like, a guy's or someone with a higher social status.
Yeah.
Because there is a love story, but I don't think Miss Braun, is that how you say it last name?
Charlotte Bronte.
Bronte. I don't think Mrs. Bronte wanted the book to just be a love story. I think she wanted it to mean much more
Yeah.
to, like, other people's eyes.
With more depth.
If you consider the time it is written in, the stuff that she was writing was considered very, like I said earlier, shocking. Like, this love story, even though there is love, her relationship is shocking. Like, no one really saw equality and kept to their morals as much. So even though, it isn't necessarily meant to be just a love story, the love itself is also pretty shocking. If you look at the time it's written. Now it's not very, but back then it would be.
Yeah.
The sources we found for the fun facts about Charlotte Bronte are janeaustensummer.org and annebronte.org.
Thank you for listening.